Okay, my friends, we'll continue our class on the molecule and what is to be expected when it does materialize. We're talking about last time how the Tibetan he was actually trying to establish what we're doing, but he failed. And he said the masters have tried this a number of times and they haven't been able to pull it off, even the masters. And so, if they've had a difficulty pulling it off, then I guess we shouldn't feel bad that we aren't perfect ourselves. But to start his project and his attempt, he began with 50 people and then was whittled down to that number of 24. And he tried to work with the 24, and then he lost six, got down to 18. And last time I said, I remembered he wound up with just six, but I couldn't find the reference. But Lucy, I don't know if Adam gave it to her or what, but anyway, she gave me the reference. And the reason I couldn't find it, I was looking for the number six, doing a word search for that, and it didn't show up. He doesn't say six specifically, but he winds up with eight and two were kind of fizzling out. So that would be six. Let me read you the reference here. You've had much more than you can assimilate of the original group of students. Only a few are left. Of the more than 50 original members who have been affiliated with my ashram, only 16 remain. And of these, only eight are truly active. And of these eight, two are causing me some questioning. so, so that leaves six. Only six were people that he could depend on for the group he was trying to establish. He says, so that's where the number six come from. He doesn't use the number six. He's eight minus two would equal the six that we were talking about earlier. So this was the reference that I was looking for. And he says, wherein lies the fault? And where was the error and the choices I made? Where does the blame for what on the surface appears to be such an outstanding failure? Okay, so um, it's a good question. And he kind of goes into it. Of course, that's the personality thing. A lot of it was he give instructions to the disciples how they could move forward, and they didn't like the instructions. And they often complain. They said, well, that's not the Tibetan talking. That's just how say Bailey's got a chip on my shoulder toward me. And so that was her speaking, not a master. And so and then there was people that had personal problems, personal distractions. And now DK personally selected these 50 people to start with. So he had the advantage of being a master. We don't have a master in our group. So he
Moshi.
what's that?
Moshi.
Moshe?
Master
Yeah.
Moshi.
Well, let's make use of him here.
Where are you quoting from? I remember reading all of that, but I can't remember where.
Yeah, that's Discipleship in the New Age, Volume 2, page 90.
90. Okay.
Yeah. Glad we finally found that reference. Been looking for it for a couple of weeks and couldn't find it.
Yeah, I read it too, clear through, and thanks for bringing that back.
Yeah. So he says, he sounds almost just a little bit discouraged here. He says, I have now definitely decided to disband my new seed group. My experiment in reorganizing the earlier groups and one larger group has not succeeded. I've told you frequently that the hierarchy itself does not know what decisions humanity will make in world affairs or if mankind will profit from the proffered opportunity. Equally so, the master of an ashram does not know what the disciples on the periphery of an ashram will do. because their training and testing is only in process. He does know what an accepted disciple admitted freely into the ashramic intimacy will do in any given circumstance, because he has been tested and tried, and the master knows that there are certain things which he will not do. So until a disciple reaches a certain point, he says they're kind of a wild card. He says even the masters can't predict. And so when DK decided to pick these 50, he says these 50 were on the periphery. In other words, they weren't, and this is basically where we all are, that we reach out and we see people that are capable of being in a group and assimilating, and they're all pretty much on the periphery. It's only a disciple that's advanced enough, which is really rare, where the masters can look upon them and they can predict what he will do, because it's a little bit like, well, if you got a really good quarterback, you know that in a pinch that he's going to make a decision that's going to be pretty much the best play possible. You get a new guy in, and you don't know pretty much. He's untested. You can't really predict. The coach really can't predict if he puts him in. He doesn't know how he's going to perform. But if it's somebody that he's worked with and tested and skilled, he knows pretty much how he's going to perform. And that's kind of the way the masters are with the disciples here. There's just a handful of people that they can depend on, and they can say, well, we know that when this happens, that the disciple's going to make this type of decision because he's been tested and he knows the type of decision that needs to be made here. But the ones on the periphery, you never know what they're going to do. You never know when this guy gets tested. Is he going to pass it? Is he going to continue to stay in the light, or is he going to get discouraged, or what? So this is the problem the masters have in working with just the people that are aspiring to the spiritual path. Is they're unpredictable, because, well, think of the times in your own life that you progressed along and then something happened. You maybe had a divorce, or lost love, or lost job opportunity. It completely diverted your attention maybe from the spiritual path. You're really interested in the spiritual path, and then something happened to maybe take your attention off of it. So the Tibetan looked on these 50 people, and they were all susceptible to being diverted off, or maybe is it something that hurt their feelings or whatever. So there's all kinds of things that distract people until the person gets to the point where he sees beyond illusion, sees through the eyes of the soul, and is committed to keeping his mind steady in the light. And this is a great achievement when the disciple reaches this point where he can do that. And this is what makes creating a group that's capable of a group initiation of what we call the molecular order so difficult, is because there are so many distractions on the personality level. We have the personality composed of the lower self, just taking care of business in the world itself, And there's so many things in the world that draw our attention. First of all, most of us have to make a living, and that by itself is a tremendous distraction. You go along and say Curtis is in uh, what kind of tree and shrub business, or what would you say your name type of your business is?
Yeah, pest control.
Pest control and
Yeah.
that.
And
Okay,
fruit tree
so
pruning.
so
Yeah.
let's suppose he screws up and kills somebody's bushes that weren't supposed to be killed.
Cut down the wrong tree like Wayne did.
Yeah, and they sue him. Okay, well that
That's
all
different.
of a sudden Curtis comes to the meeting as he's distracted. He can't really focus on the group work that much. It makes it a lot harder. So we all have these type of distractions that occur, or maybe you had a big argument with your spouse, or maybe you found out your kid was on drugs or something like that. Tremendous distractions happen in this world. And this is why the Tibetan says that those who are on the periphery, he says, are unpredictable. You can't really predict. Even the masters, he says, can't predict what they're going to do or the type of decisions they're going to make until they cross this certain threshold where they're able to keep their mind focused in the light. That way, even if the world falls apart, even if their loved ones gets killed in an accident or whatever, they still are able to focus on the light, no matter what happens around them. And this is a really big test for us all, because all of us have unexpected things surface that we have to handle. And
Well, these people on the periphery haven't been tried in the fire. You know, I have people reading my books that say, "Yeah, I want to be a part of this group of 40 you're putting together." And then when it comes down to it, you know, they some of them just, well, I don't really want to do Zoom. I don't want, you know, I'm not ready to meet people on that level. Or I had one gal that came to one of our meetings and then she had a mouse that I trapped and she lived 30 miles away and wanted me to come and get it. So I sent somebody over to get it and she didn't like that person, so she didn't let him in. And then she got all mad and, you know, twisted out of shape. So, you know, even though they're reading and studying, they haven't been tried in any fire.
yeah. Now, a good example of somebody that has distractions to handle right now is Asaf. He lives in Israel. He's a Jew that lives there, and rockets are going overhead that are aimed to destroy him. And how do you keep yourself centered in the light over there, Asaf?
So maybe I'm a master and I'm not aware of it.
He stays inside and shuts the door.
All this is so normal. It's kind of normal now for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The Tibetan talks about different qualities that will appear when this group is um,
Established.
established and makes the contact. He says there's 6 supernormal powers that will come. Now, he talked about in an earlier part of his books, he talks about this somewhat, and then he kind of, after time passes, he kind of repeats it, but in a little bit different language here. So some of it we may have covered a little bit, but first of all, he says that when the group is established and we have this group initiation, this connection with the hierarchy, we will have an increase in intuitional response to ideas. Now, when an idea is presented, normally people think, well, that's either a good idea or a bad idea, and that's it. That's as far as it goes. But what happens when the group consciousness is consummated is he will be able to absorb the idea and expand on it. An idea is the beginning of all creation. The atomic plane is the plane of ideas, and an enlightened person can tune in to this plane and bring ideas down to the earth. And when the ideas are actually brought through that person or group, they absorb it so they can completely understand it. Or you present a really good idea to a group of people, there will be maybe say 20 people. There may be one or two that really absorb it and kind of see the vision of how the idea will play out. But to the others, the idea is just like a piece of information. Piece of information is different than an idea. The second thing he says is they will have sensitiveness to impression, which some member of the hierarchy may seek to make upon the mind of the disciple. It is for this reason that I'm training you to utilize the full moon contact. Okay, so now, of course, the hierarchy isn't going around and sending impressions to every rank and file person, but they are particularly attracted to groups, any group that gets together to try to merge and make spiritual contact together, they are attracted to. But what the individuals in the group must be aware of is that contact. And when the group reaches a certain degree of unity, they will be able to perceive contact with the spiritual hierarchy, the Christ, or any of the masters associated with him will be attempting to actually send messages, and the group as a whole will be sensitive to those messages. Okay. 3, quick response to real need. You have not regarded this as one of the psychic powers my brother had you. I refer not here to solar plexus reaction, but to heart knowledge. Ponder on this distinction. Yeah, to be able to see real need versus artificial need. You can kind of see this in the way that the government tries to help people. They just see a need out there and they throw money at it, and it doesn't seem to do anything. We were talking earlier about how I think some states, they spend as much as $40,000 per homeless person, and the homeless person maybe gets just a handful of actual benefit from that 40,000. Where it went, who knows? So what we need to look at is where the real need is and where the real solution is. And this is what the people in the successful group will eventually be able to see. They'll see what the real need is and how to support it. And he says this has to be done by tuning into the heart, not the solar plexus. What's the difference between, what do you think, Adam, between tuning into the need of a person's solar plexus versus the heart? How is the response different?
If I'm tuning into the other person's solar plexus versus the heart, or using
let's say you want to help, decide you want to help the homeless, okay? What's the difference between the solar plexus approach and the heart approach?
The heart approach helps you is linked closer to the higher centers in yourself, and so it helps you see the real need for the person as opposed to just responding emotionally in the moment. You know, sometimes a homeless person does just need a buck to help them get through the day, but long term, that's, you know, a buck every day or $20 every day is not going to truly help lift that soul to their next step. So we've got to see what they really need and be able to lift them up,
Yeah, I
usually
think,
in a different way than they want to be lifted up.
yeah, good point. So the solar plexus helping the homeless is in a way that you feel that you've done your job. I feel good about helping that homeless guy, give him $5 or whatever. But the heart looks at it and said, I want to help him in a way that will really help on a permanent basis somehow.
Well, the soul is linked in the heart as opposed. So a person can have wants, I want or I need. Your desires come from your solar plexus. You know, I've got a friend that I help that really needs help. His dad died, his uncle died. He's alone in a house, and he's in a real bad shape. Now that guy really needs some help, so I take him over food and clothes and stuff. He really needs it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it comes down to judgment. Sometimes, like Adam says, sometimes people just need a few dollars just given to them, and other times it enables them. So you have to use good judgment.
Well,
Okay.
I've had opportunities with people that there was a fellow who lived, him and his girlfriend lived under a tree near where I lived in California. And I took time to help him find the cause of his homelessness. I told him, I gave him examples of what my dad did when he needed a job. You know, you try to work, you bring ideas that are stimulating.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, number 4 is right observation of reality from the soul plane. This leads to right mental perception, to freedom from illusion and glamour, and to the elimination of the brain. Okay, so when a successful group is created, you'll have right observation of reality upon the soul plane. So seeing reality from the plane of the soul is a lot different than seeing reality from the plane of the personality. And probably the place where this plays out most is in personal relationships. So if you have a really close personal relationship with a spouse or a good friend, and say you have a disagreement, if you can both see true reality from the plane of the soul, you can resolve that disagreement. If you can't, then the disagreement will just be amplified and produce a division between the two. And this is really an important aspect for a successful molecular group, is for the people in the group to see from the plane of the soul. If they see from the plane of the soul, there will not be any problem come up that will divide them. No matter what happens, no matter what opinions they have, they'll be able to resolve them in such a way that they will not divide them. And that's probably, if there's any principle that's of supreme importance, this is probably it.
Yeah, not be critical.
Yeah, if you want to test any group, just throw out a few criticisms and see what happens. And okay, 5 is correct manipulation of force, involving therefore an understanding of the types and qualities of force and the right creative weaving into service upon the outer plane. Okay, so we have various forces that we work with. And the key line here is to weave them into service upon the outer plane. So we take these spiritual forces and we direct them in such a way that they will, they may be inspired from the spirit, but we bring them down in such a way that they become a practical application in the material realm. And 6, he says, a true comprehension of the time element with its cyclic web and flow and the right seasons for action. He says, this is the most difficult psychic power to master, my brothers, but one which can be mastered through the use of patient waiting and elimination of hurry. Elimination of hurry, that's interesting statement, because I've been working on creating a successful molecular group capable of group initiation for many years. And I've seen a lot of people come and go. And one of the main reasons they go is they're here for a few months and nothing really tremendous has happened yet, so they move on. Okay, so what the disciple must do, he says, is eliminate the sense of being hurried. And the disciple must, which the Christ said a number of times, must endure to the end, endure to the consummation. So we meet together as a group, and most of the members of the group here have been with us for a while and have been really good about enduring. We've had some really nice vibrations and spiritual feelings among us, but we haven't had a tremendous supernatural event like the day of Pentecost type of thing or anything like that happen yet. But the members that are here feel that a contact with their inner soul telling them that there is something available that's at the end of this group activity that will bring us to a greater connection between heaven and earth. And I find it interesting that the Tibetan, as intelligent as he was and as advanced as he was somewhat frustrated with the group that he worked with. Started with 50 people and wound up with just 6. And 6 apparently was not a big enough number to create what he needed to create. And I believe that number is 24. So he only had 6 and he needed 24 to accomplish what he really wanted to do in the beginning. And what makes it very difficult is that that oneness and avoiding the distractions of the personality, because as I say, even the most advanced person with strong spiritual intent will have tremendous distractions just through ordinary living that distracts them away from the physical, from the spiritual life. Well, let's suppose so you're just going along and everything seems to be going well, and then you have something happens, maybe a sickness or a problem with your business, and you just lose everything. You lose your house, you lose your wife, and it produces a tremendous distraction for you. So how do you stay centered if you just have
I've been through that.
something really big happens? That
I've been through that.
yeah.
Lost my job, wife, house, everything.
I
Yeah,
think
you
we've
bet
all
that-
had those, I think we've all had those experiences.
Yeah. And you have to bounce back from those things and get back to where you were before and not let it distract you. And,
Well, in my own personal experience, my soul contact was even greater after my 8 years of karmic relationship.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's why we have to look at it. When you have something that appears to be really bad happening to you, it's actually an opportunity to advance, to increase your ring pass, not if you handle it right. In other words, the key is to turn the lemons into lemonade. And that's what the disciple basically has to do. And I find that interesting with the research Michael Newton did into the life between lives. And one of the things he found with all his research and taking people back to what life was like in between lives in the world of the soul, that when we plan our lives and pick situations, that when the entity is given maybe 3 different opportunities, 3 different families, he will often pick the circumstance that is the most difficult, because he thinks, I'm going to be able to make the most progress because I'm going to have a lot of problems. Okay. But when we get here, we think just opposite. We think, boy, I would have never chosen this situation to happen. Why did God send me this? And it wasn't God. Before you were born, you actually chose this life that presented these particular problems for you. So Asaph chose to come down here, be born in Israel, and have these rockets aimed at him all the time. He figured, well, if I can live at peace with rockets going overhead and every now and then, I guess that would be a good thing. But now he's down here, he thinks, boy, I don't really like this very much.
Yeah, look at the war you've caused for yourself, Asaph.
Yeah.
No, I don't think anything will move Asaph. He seems imperturbable.
Yeah, he's a pretty steady guy. Okay, my friends.
I think everybody here is in this group is pretty steady. They've all been tried by some fire or something.
Yeah, this group pretty much hangs around no matter what happens. So we're headed on the right path here. At least you guys aren't giving up. Okay, my friends, really good to talk to you, and we'll make this recording available shortly, and we will meet again next Sunday at 2 p.m. and we'll talk about the connection of the group to Shambhala.
Yay.
Not have it now, but that is in the future. Until then, may the spirit be with you.
The spirit of anticipation.
Thank you very much.